Hello, everyone. This is Stefan Marceau, the host of the Nano Cruising Podcast. This is part 2 of our conversation with the organizers behind the Three Great Lakes Raid, and this time we go deeper. We talk about designing safety into adventures, building up to bigger challenges, and why small boats and even racing might be the best way to truly learn to sail. If you want to get on the water and grow into it, this is the one for you. So we were talking about safety. What else should we do about safety for our competitors? What are your ideas to improve that?
Well, so for the virtual race, again, keeping in mind that the EXC is a virtual race and then eventually an in-person race. For the in-person race, we intend to use the Northwest Maritime Center's sort of bar that they set, follow their exact pre-race processes, pretty much the same equipment requirements and experience requirements. You have to have completed at least one virtual race or another race like the Everglades Challenge, et cetera, before you can compete, et cetera. All racers have to carry a tracker. We're going to use this. There's a company, it's the same company that does all the Northwest Maritime races, that will give viewers the ability to track them, which means they can have a ground crew. So ground crew will be required for the in-person races. For the virtual races, we'll have guidelines. As you can imagine, there has to be a pretty big legal distance between the site that's just tracking, it's just a leaderboard and nothing else, and the fact that people are racing on Lake Erie and it can kill them, right? Mm-hmm. So that we're going to have a real, line in the sand there legally, and we'll give people guidelines about safety, but safety, preparation, skills, et cetera, are completely on the competitor. It's unsupported and on them for the virtual races.
Right.
Yeah. And safety is a really tough one from a decision-making standpoint and a design standpoint, because you really have two competing and oil and water type non-mixing rule sets. And they're basically the highly prescriptive and the open to you're an adult, you make your decision. At the one end of the spectrum, you have Race to Alaska, which totally takes safety seriously. They say essentially follow the Coast Guard regulations, and prove to us that you have the chops, you've done something similar, you have the endurance, you have the skills, and you have to apply. Now they'll say very explicitly in the application, just because we let you in doesn't mean we think you're safe.
Right.
But they don't have you can do it on a paddleboard, right? So they clearly don't have equipment lists beyond the Coast Guard.
They don't.
And then the other extreme is races like the Chicago Mackinac, where they have pages of safety regulations. They have, minimum boat specs, length, stability test requirements. They have the diameter and the Newton force requirements of lifelines and jack lines. And, they'll say that if you have an open cockpit, you have one rule for drainage. And if you have a cockpit that, is more traditional tub style, that it has to drain at, 48.462 liters per minute, and this clearly came from some physics, and there's a rule to it, but it's incredibly specific. And you just can't apply those rules to dinghies.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Dinghies are one big cockpit without a drain. It's just never going to work. And they're not going to pass stability tests because it's movable ballast.
Right.
However, at the same time, in a dinghy, if you capsize, it's not nearly as big of a deal as if you turtle a 40-foot boat, there's crew stuck inside. Like, that is a really bad thing.
Yes.
And, one of the most recent tragic events in the Mackinac, somewhere around 2010, was a 2-foot boat that relied on, you look at the design and you go, oh my gosh, that thing's crazy, but it relied on crew ballast to keep it up and down. And even though it was a keel boat, and it flipped, and the people that died were inside the boat, not outside the boat. But I digress. but deciding, I think it was head injuries through,
Mhm.
being essentially inside a clothes dryer,
Mhm.
getting banged around.
Yeah.
That did it. So there's a good reason for these rules, but they don't mix. And, these yacht clubs are also following U.S. Sailing, which has its own rules of racing, which has a different set of right-of-way rules.
So we're not
than, say,
bound
Coast
by
Guard.
all this, obviously. So,
But you have to make the decision.
so there's a balance in
And
between.
and if you have, so we're structured as, it's a club of people from all kind of walks of life in sailing,
Right.
and some come from the Chicago Mackinac type racing, and they like these rules. And then you have other people coming in dinghies and say, well, that doesn't work. So there's a lot of decision making, but that's actually been a big kind of pause for us in the design. Was we came to an impasse. How are we designing safety here? Because you can't walk the middle path. There is no middle path.
That's right. I love your analogy. There's sort of two diametrically opposing sliders, and oil and water. And my opinion is that the first one, the sort of Northwest Maritime U.S. Coast Guard based one, is much better for the attendees or the participants and for the race. It's like, I come from a software background, so I'll say it's the Unix philosophy. Use parts that do one thing and do it well. The U.S. Coast Guard is really good at telling us how to operate watercraft safely. So do what they say, right? And know how to do what they say, like have the skills and experience to do what they say. My problem with the second bucket, where we try to start to establish the Newton laws of jack lines, et cetera, is that once you start to put rules around so much of the race, the implication there is that if you omitted something, that's actually your responsibility, right? When you have this long list of things that are supposed to keep you safe and you forget item number 101 that actually gets somebody hurt, then there's an argument can be made that your list was incomplete and therefore you are partially responsible for that person getting hurt. So I'm a big believer in the Unix philosophy. Let's let the U.S. Coast Guard tell us how to operate watercraft safely, and then compel competitors to learn how to do that and to do it.
Right.
Yeah. So I think the other thing too is that if you say very specifically what it is that they have to have, and then something fails with that, then that's also, that's, you told me it had to be this way, and then that didn't work, and now I'm dead, or now I'm in such and such a situation. So it definitely opens it up, but it is tough. I mean, we basically just go with Coast Guard, make sure you got your stuff. And there was one group, I can't remember which one it was now, but they had two rules. One was, and I'll say this in a polite way because I don't know what the audience is going to be. Bring your own stuff was rule number one. Rule number two was don't be an ass.
Right.
That was the extent of the rules.
So the thing about your rule number two is I think that second set, this Jeffrey's second bucket, it kind of breaks the spirit of events like this. Like the reason people race to Alaska, for 80% of those competitors, they're not trying to win. They just want to see a polar bear. They just want to see the mountains from the water, or a sunset from, you know what I mean? And sure, along the way I took off work and you can race to Alaska, and that's something to say too. When you have all these pedantic sort of notice of race around the buoys type rules, right? Then it turns everybody into your rule 2 violator. Right. You bet your butt, if I come in second place, I'm going to be walking around the winner's boat testing the Newton law, the Newton forces of their jack line. So you know what I mean? Yeah. That's not what this is about.
No, exactly.
It fully breaks the spirit.
You don't want a protest committee.
No.
Yeah.
No.
However, I will say from a safety standpoint, I understand. I'm not throwing Chicago Mackinac under the bus. No. I totally understand why they have these rules, and they've ratcheted it up. They have an incident. For example, I've read the incident report from this 2010 capsize, where they bring in people. U.S. Sailing comes in and brings in people who have been on planning committees for all the big races.
Yeah.
And they come in and they have recommendations. And this is an event, Chicago Mackinac is a 300 boat plus event. They do every year, in every weather form. And they have a really good track record of keeping people alive.
Yeah.
There are these events. I'm not sure the frequency, say once a decade type events, But given the number of boats and number of people on the water, they have probably 1,500, 2,000 people on the water. Yeah. And they're all getting home.
Yeah.
I do understand why they have these. It's all about what you're trying to optimize.
Correct.
And if you want, as Eric said, if you want the spirit of the race to be more open, sometimes you have to drop some of your prescriptive rules.
So with all that, somebody that is listening is thinking, well, this isn't the dating first, but this is sounds pretty amazing, but maybe not for me. What would you tell them? Right.
Well, for me, this is actually why so if I step back, the Great Lakes Expeditionary Club exists primarily to host the Rust Belt 950. But that's a huge race. We wanted ways for people to learn and prove themselves. And that's actually how we got into these raids.
Nice.
So for us, the idea is if you have the endurance to sail for 3 days in beach camp, that says maybe you can do it for a week or two. And maybe it doesn't say you can, but if you really don't like it, then this next one's not for me. So they were kind of minor league events to step up to the main event. However, at the time, we did not know that either Raid Erie existed, mostly because it hadn't happened yet. Basically, once it happened, we knew it happened. Last summer, we're like, oh, this exists.
Yes.
And also didn't know about the Can-Am dinghy group either.
It's great that we're all connecting now. Definitely.
So I think, and this is where there's some pivots, and I've kind of talked with Eric a little bit through email, where from our perspective as this huge event, there's actually already a grassroots local kind of consortium or not consortium yet, localized pockets where people can get these skills. And what I really want to do is work harder to get everyone talking.
Nice. Right.
Yeah. My answer to that is if somebody says, hey, I looked at this and it's not for me, I would say, well, what is for you, right? Like what kind of enjoyment can you get out of a community event like this, right? It's all about community and encouraging people to get off their phones and get out on the water or whatever is their equivalent of enjoyment. So maybe you can, find a team that maybe needs somebody to do their ground crew. You can have a ground crew without being in, you don't need anybody's permission to have a ground crew. You just put a tracker on your phone and then people can track you, or you can get a spot or an inReach and people can track you. So you could do that with a team. You could, be on the water as a safety boat. There's or you can just watch from a distance and participate in the community on, Facebook, website, whatever. So I would just ask people like, what is for you? And like Jeff said, if you're saying it's not for me, but you kind of want it to be, right? Then, get in your boat, get out on the water, come to some of the raid events, come to Raid Erie and some of Kelly's and Jeff's other events that are popping up, and just, try a day here, try a night there, try 2 nights, try 5 nights. Okay, maybe I'll do the 24-hour version of the EXC. Okay, that went well. I'll try something, just step into it like you do anything else that you've ever learned in your life or ever grown into in your life.
Yeah.
I think for us as well, it's, we've traditionally done, these week-long events, and we leave the marina. We don't stop again anywhere meaningful, like no towns, no resupply of anything. You have to take everything with you. So you're gone for, a week. And that's a lot for some people. For most of the guys that are regulars, they've done it, lots and lots of times. They know what stuff to take and et cetera, et cetera. But we found that, there are so many people out there with, small trailerable cruising boats, like whether it's a Wayfarer that's open or a Siren 17 or a Potter or, something like that. But they just, they day sail them. They don't, and you think, geez, you got a cabin. Come on, you got a tent. Let's go. But they're nervous to go for a full week because, how much gear do I need? How much food what am I going to do? How am I going to go to the bathroom? All these things, right? And so what we've started doing is in the last year or two is to try and get more events that are maybe 3 days, 2 days, 4 days, not a full 6-day excursion.
Mm-hmm.
And this helps, I think, people to get their feet wet a little bit, try it out with some guys that know the area. So you don't have to know where to go. You don't have to pick a place. Somebody already knows. Let's go to this spot. It's got a good ramp. So all that is out of your mind. You don't have to worry about sorting that out. Just come and follow along with us, and that's worked really well. We've built a lot of guys up that have just kind of started out and they think, oh my God, this is so much fun. And, the other thing is videos. And as crazy as that sounds, I've started doing more and more video the last year and getting them out there just so people can see this is the kind of area that we go to. A, look what you're missing. But B, this is sort of your day to day. This is the kind of stuff that you can expect on a trip like this, right? And so we've tried to set it up so that we've got something for everybody and kind of a ladder for people to climb up. And then you can choose what events you like. There are guys in our group that they don't want to have anything to do with these mileage-based events. It's just not their thing, right? They want to go out. They want to sail for 10 miles in a day, drop the anchor at 2:00, have a nap, have a beer, relax, and have a snack, and that's cool, right? If that's where you're at, then great. We've got those types of things going, but
And then there's people that have done that and now they're itching and want to graduate to like an expedition, something personal accomplishment, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I really hope that this helps people wanting to get into that. That's the goal of that. Get more people in the water off their phones.
And I think it's good that, while we're all kind of running our own little things, to be able to work together and to let people know, look, there's all these different ways that you can go about getting out and enjoying the water. And whether it's in a really small boat or in something that's, a little bit bigger, maybe a small keel boat or whatever, we've got so much available where we are. And there are guys out there with experience and they know the area, etc. Join up, come on out and maybe just for one of our weekend events. And you meet so many people. I got to say that, some of my best friends now are just because we've done this.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No question. No question.
You get that kind of thing going where you're out in really crappy weather and you're eating canned food and stuff and it's pouring. Those are the kinds of things that stick with you, right? And
listening to Kelly play the uke.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So we founded the Great Lakes Expeditionary Club around this one race, the Rust Belt 950, but very quickly it kind of ballooned to this idea of let's save sailing in our region. Basically, buoy racing, that world has atrophied. A lot of people are aging out through multiple reasons. One is the larger keel boats are very, very expensive. And then on the youth side, we're now competing. Youth sports specialize earlier. So, if you're a hockey player now, you play hockey 4 seasons a year and including summer. So maybe you used to do sailing camps if you were in the 80s or 90s baby, but nowadays that's not the case. So, trying to produce a different way to get out on the water that might attract the youth. And also maybe isn't the time commitment that youth dinghy racing is. We threw the word Great Lakes in our club. So we just kind of, because it was the original race was, across the majority of the Great Lakes. So that was kind of our name. So we were, it's the whole region. However, one thing we realized, and I think it was kind of backed up, the first chapter of Roger Barnes of the Dinghy Cruising Association, he's kind of UK and France, or his waters. His new book he just came out with, the first chapter is called Local Knowledge, I think. and how important local knowledge is. And what we realized is, when it comes to small boats, especially, you can't sit in your skyscraper in Chicago, CEO of the Great Lakes, and try to top down, decide, how this is going to happen. It actually has to be grassroots across the lakes. So, in finding out that things like Radiary were popping up, or these Georgian Bay events, from the Can-Am, really realized that those are actually the organizations with the local knowledge and local flavor that are going to save sailing in our particular region. And what we've done is we've kind of changed our focus, where as a club we want to run this big our specialty will be this big race across the region, but then maybe we act not as a director or direct control of these local events, but we act as kind of a council, a confederacy, consortium,
not a confederacy,
forum, sailing anarchy without
loosely connected, yeah,
sailing anarchy without angry people, hopefully.
Correct.
Yeah, a forum without naysayers.
That was the don't be an ass part, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, maybe what we'll do as a club is we'll have this big annual event, and then as a race, and then maybe we'll also, because it gets cold here and we all want to talk and think about sailing, have a moving kind of banquet type thing where we all get together in February.
That sounds great.
Winter is just the worst.
Oh, that was a great idea.
What a great idea.
Sometimes it's in
What a great
Chicago.
idea. February, we can do it. We can have people attend virtually. We can go over everybody's calendars. What a great idea, man! What a great
Let's
idea.
do it.
And it's two things. We talk about the past, like what was like sharing our, a few people that participate in these different events. They have, slideshows and videos, and they talk about what they did. And then, keynote speakers like Ray Deary's having.
I'll let Eric organize it. He's so good at that. So.
Yeah, Eric. If Eric could be Commodore, that would be great. And then also meeting and planning.
You got nothing else to do.
Yeah, you don't see the invite in your inbox already. So
Right.
I have my thoughts are similar to Jeff's. I love the Let's Save Sailing, and I've witnessed first class all the dynamics that he's describing around. Kids go to sailing clubs now, but then when sailing club's over, it's like, well, I'm going back to school. It's hockey season. It's basketball season. I'm not sailing anymore. I just did that for fun. So we don't have these kids that are getting the bug like, Swallows versus Amazons did for Roger Barnes, and then infected thousands of people. Right. We're not seeing that anymore. So I'll let you guys in on a secret. You know how everything Elon Musk does is, he's actually doing everything he does, making all the money he does so that we can get to Mars. That's all he cares about. He doesn't care about Tesla. He doesn't care about all he cares about is getting to Mars. And I know he's controversial, and I'm just using him as an example to explain what my Mars is. Everything that I'm doing, Radiary, the race, et cetera, those are all fun. And I'm really glad to be participating in them, and really glad to see people interested in them. But my Mars is, by the time I reach retirement age, I want to have built the network so that I can start a very small version. Have you guys ever heard of the National Outdoor Leadership School? It's a NOLS.
Yeah.
It's a nonprofit. Well, I want to either as part of NOLS or as a separate nonprofit, I want to do a expedition boating version of NOLS. It's just very focused on boats to try to give kids and parents who know their kids have that in their soul, right? They've made a connection with a boat. They've made a connection with the water, to give a kid an opportunity to really see what the art of the possible is, right? And really get an opportunity to compete in these camps, to go be a crew member in the Rust Belt 950, right? That kind of thing, where it's all about leadership and exposing them to experiences that they wouldn't get otherwise, that will hopefully transform their lives in the ways that we all know sailing has done for us, because there just isn't that contact surface anymore on the phones and in the athletic system that we see kids in today.
Right.
Yeah.
Kelly, I love this Save Sailing. I think, Kelly, you went through this because Can-Am was, I won't say dying, but it was whittling down, and then
yeah.
you really,
I think for me, it's really, this really started out, the Can-Am thing as a way to get people together and get out and enjoy the water and do the cruising thing and see what's possible. And, you know, if I'm honest, it kind of got away from what I really wanted to do. And that was to get out and do more mileage and, you know, get more small boats involved. And it started to get to be, you know, that we were starting to get more keel boats in. And I got nothing against keel boats. I've owned those and sailed them as part of Can-Am as well. But it started to kind of lose focus from what I really wanted to do. And that was to get people out sailing and do it locally. And so, you know, the last about a year and a half or so, I've really kind of been able to dive into this. Again, I'm not working a 9 to 5 anymore, so that's really helped a lot. And I want to get more sort of local fleets set up. We've already started doing this, you know, to bring people together. And, you know, we've got our sort of key guys here in where I am in Central Ontario. We've got Eastern Ontario guys now. Eric's jumping in. He's pulling guys in together and on the south side of Lake Erie. You know, we've got people over in Michigan. We've got a group up now in Minnesota, up in the north end there, and up into Lake Superior. And to me, that's what I really want to do. And I want to use the Can-Am group almost like a dating app where people can come on. You know, you've got like whatever it is, Tinder or whatever it's called. I don't know anything about that, but you know, that kind of a thing where people can come on, they can join, they can get all of the knowledge, etc., that's, you know, in the group already and apply it to their local area, and we can help to match people up. So when they join Can-Am, you know, they say, oh, well, I'm in Chesapeake Bay area. Great. Well, we've got these other 6 or 7 guys that are already in your area. So, you know, meet up with them. And even if it's just, you know, a quick weekend, even a day sail, you know, that's how we started with Can-Am. There was, I think, 3 or 4 of us got together in Lake Ontario. It wasn't the most scenic thing or whatever, but it was a start, you know. And then we got together in a local little reservoir one day. I think there was 3 of us, and then it just built. You know, we get now, you know, 15, 16 people out, it's different boats at our events. You know, we've got another group that's just started out on the east coast of Canada, right? And to me, that's what it's about. And you know, you've got your local buddies and friends. But the other thing that's cool is, now, you know, I want to go down and hit an event in Ohio. You know, I know a guy, right? I can go down there that knows the area, that knows the whole thing, local knowledge, right? Same thing. And vice versa. We've got guys coming up regularly from New York State that, you know, come on our cruises. I mentioned Steve that came down from, I think he's up in Wisconsin last year. So you can visit these other areas as well. So you're a part of something bigger, but you can also have your own. It's not that difficult to do. And I think the thing is that as an organizer or as a fleet captain, you got to kind of hang it out there a little bit. And, you know, it's like sending out invitations for your birthday party and hoping some kids show up. And if they don't, you got to be ready for that, right? I've had events where, well, we've had to cancel events. And I think that's where, you know, you were mentioning that we saw things dwindling down. I think we were just running the same kind of cruise all the time in the same areas, and we weren't mixing it up. And guys were aging out. They were moving out of the area, etc. Time to mix it up. We had our biggest year ever last year. I sound like a politician now. It was bigly, you know.
It was huge.
It was huge. All right, let's not go there.
That's enough.
But we did. We had our biggest year last year, and our membership just expanded in such a big way, right? And we got on Facebook, so we've updated what we're doing in that regard. And to me, that's what it's all about. Let's get more guys together in their local areas, enjoying sailing, enjoying cruising.
Absolutely. I think we have the same religion. Trent, the podcast is all about getting people on the water. So we all share that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That dating app idea you have, though we don't need to develop an app, although it sounds like Ericsson software, so maybe we can. I think it's a really good point. And it's dating apps now. You think you used to meet somebody, you go to a bar, right? Or something. And then you just kind of sit there and wait and hope things work out.
Yeah.
And the dating app made it easier, for better or for worse, but it made it, definitely made it easier. And I have the personal experience. I've sailed small boats my whole life, but I had no keelboat experience before last year.
Right.
And I was like, well, I'd like to crew on, we have a local fleet of J24s here.
Right.
And so I went down to the yacht club and had to walk the docks and find a boat it's a crew of people that all know each other and have sailed with each other. And it's a big piece of intimidating equipment. And here I am, not new to sailing and not like a middle schooler where you're supposed to be socially awkward. I'm a 40-year-old man walking the docks and I'm trying to get on a keelboat. And I'm like, I feel like a 12-year-old at, the sock hop dance, like asking someone if they'll dance with me. I'm very nervous about this. And, yacht clubs are intimidating in that sense. I mean, just the name, like, you think yacht club, you think like, New York Yacht Club, like rich oil barons type people, and then the pros and mixed with America's Cup pros. And the truth is, they really aren't. But having that culture where people can feel like, oh, I don't know much about this, I'm interested in it, and having people say, yes, come, and real time interaction there. But also, like you said, with the videos, where people who know nothing about it can watch 10 videos. And when they actually do reach out for the first time, they actually kind of know what's going on. Yeah.
Well, you get a vibe for what these guys are like too, like the guys in our group, right? So I try to show it. This is who we are. We're not pretentious jerks. Maybe we are. I don't know. I'll let them be the judge of that. But this is kind of what our group is like. This is what the dynamic is like between the guys. And, so you feel a little bit comfortable with that. And, I think one of the best things and the worst things to be invented when it comes to sailing is the internet, right? So we're all talking about screen time and, the kids are all looking at their screens. Well, it's also the best thing because Can-Am would never have happened without the internet.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no question.
To try and drag these guys together, it never would have taken place.
It's a necessary evil.
Absolutely, right. And so we got to use it for the best way that we can. And again, the more videos and the more information, like we put together, Stefan, we've got the checklist now, right? So we go through, we've got our cruising checklist and it's great, especially for somebody new. But for me, my worst thing is organizing for the trip. Not that I'm really bad at it, but I just hate it. Right. Or, what am I going to take? And I always end up taking too much, but I'm getting so much better at it now because I have a specialized list that was put together by my friend Brian. But I've changed it all to match my boats and the types of events I'm going on. I've got different ones. But what a great resource for somebody.
Yeah.
I have a question for Jeff. You mentioned that you have a lot of experience on small boats. How much better do you think you are as a keelboat sailor because you started on small boats and didn't start?
Oh, yeah. I mean, small boat is definitely where you need to learn to start. Absolutely. I mean, it's generalist versus specialist. If you start and all you're doing is trimming the jib or helping get the spinnaker up and down on a big boat, I think your learning curve to understanding how the entire boat works is huge. I mean, just on this teeny little J24 keelboat, I'm sitting in the pit helping the spinnaker get up and down. I almost never look back. I've never touched the tiller. I don't even see what the helmsman's doing. So I think that the dinghies where you get it, you get a sense of, I mean, just, even keelboats care about, lift, puffs and lulls and lifts and stuff. But in a keelboat, it's hard to feel that. In a 12-foot boat, you feel every little change of the wind. It's also, to get kind of almost like spiritual about it. It's almost like, it's like surfing, the way people talk about surfing.
Yeah.
Surfing is this connection with the energy of the earth where you're harnessing this wave and you're just like making, just like every movement you're doing is like connecting and interacting with there. I mean, a main sheet and a tiller it's very similar.
Yeah.
And these little boats are, you're sitting low to the ground, water. You might be going 7 miles an hour, but you're feeling like you're flying.
Yeah.
You hike out on a little dinghy and you have your head 2 feet above the water, or you reach your hand out and you touch the water and you feel it bouncing off the little ripples. That's fun and it's fast. And yeah, so I think small boats are the way to start. I mean, the Pardees say that, right? They're like, go small, go now.
I agree. Right.
I get in trouble so much when somebody asks a question like on Reddit, or not related to raids or anything like that. They'll ask a question and I'll say how to learn. They're talking about learning on a keel boat, and I'll say, yeah, go learn on the keel boat. Go take the ASA class. Don't not do that. But while you're doing that, find a local sailing club where you can get on a Thistle, or find a local sailing club where you can, or go buy a used laser for $500. And then I say all the same things that you just said, because you're not, when you learn to sail on a keel boat, you're not learning to sail, you're learning to drive, right? You're sure learning rules of the road, you're learning some safety, but you never really understand why you're doing the things you're doing, because the boat insulates you from all that feedback. So you don't ever really become an intuitive sailor if you start on large boats.
Yeah.
And it's hard to start on a small boat as an adult. You look at the sailing schools that run youth camps. They run the youth camps on Opties and RS Ventures and 420s and stuff. But then they go, you click on adult classes and you'll be, it'll be a J22 or something. Yeah. Which is a very small keel boat. You do have a sense of feeling the wind in that, but it's still not the same.
Yeah.
And that comes down to a practicality thing, you're not going to put 2 grown adults in an Opti. But so I get why they do it that way. But yeah, getting people out there on the little boats, that's where you learn. And also racing is where you learn.
That's where you learn. That's where I always tell people.
You don't have to be a racer.
Yeah, exactly.
But crew on those boats and you'll learn, if you're just doing, again, like if you're just doing,
even if you're rail meat, you'll learn.
Even if you're rail meat, I mean, you're watching people, change the backstay tension, or loosen the vane, tighten the vane. All this stuff where you're thinking about sail shape and tuning. That when you're in a little boat, you just don't have that flexibility in the rig. So you kind of learn that too.
The other thing I love about people's little boat experiences and journeys is if they do it right, it should normalize capsizing. It should make, I think when someone's new to boats, it's like, whether you're on a big boat that's basically impossible to capsize or on a small boat that'll capsize in a second, that's all the new person is thinking about, right? Yeah. So what I tell people is get out there as soon as you can with assistance and a safety boat and capsize that boat and right it and capsize it and right it and turtle it and right it. Do it both ways. If it's an off-center board, do it with the off-center board on both sides, right? And then at the end of the day, you're like, hold on, I'm not scared anymore. I don't care. I feel okay. Capsizing is part of the fun. It's part of the experience. And now, because I'm not worried about capsizing, now I can focus on that connection and feeling the water and feeling the wind.
Correct.
It's funny because, I've been up and down the scale of boats. I've had quite a few over the years and you have as well, Stefan. And we're both, it seems like the older I get, the smaller the boat I want.
The more fun it is. Yeah.
I just picked up a Sunfish this year and, I had one years ago. Anyway, and oh my God, I had so much fun on it. It's a sense. I mean, I sailed mostly small boats like, Wayfarers and things like that. And the largest boat that I owned is an Alberg 22 keel boat. And I had a CS 22 as well. But yeah, it's the sensitivity, I think, that you get in a smaller boat, because as soon as that puff hits, you feel it, right? And that's something that you don't have the same on the keel boat. again, I love keelboats too, so it's not no slight on keelboats by any stretch of the imagination, but there's just something about it when you get that feel and you can feel the hum in the tiller, and I love it. I'm sailing my West White Potter now. I got that a couple of years ago, I guess now, and I have to say that is my most enjoyable boat I think I've owned for the type of sailing that I do now. It's obviously no racer, but it's quick enough for what I want to do and for the type of cruising that I do. I've had it where I've sailed it 10 days straight and not gotten off of it. So if you do it right, there's so much potential in those boats.
Yeah, that's the beauty.
What really gets me right now at this concept, and Eric, you got to see one on firsthand, is this kind of new class of small boat, the Flow 19. You had there was one that was at Raid Erie this year, but these small trailerable boats, in many ways, displacement wise, they're quite similar to a Potter, but fast and potentially home built.
Yeah.
So like being able to, I think that fast and home built from a saving sailing standpoint checks two really important boxes. Home built for the adults on the cost perspective side, boats, if you want, so like a Beneteau First 18 is going to cost you like $40,000+, and a First 24 is $80,000-$90,000 for these little boats. It's just nobody has that money. If you can get a kit for $6,000 for even these bigger boats like a Flow 19. And as long as you have a time and place to do it, and because their shapes are relatively simple, you're talking about 3 strakes per side, that it's not a complex hull. Amateur wise, and again, no keel, it's a buildable thing. That's huge. And then from the other checkpoint, the speed, I think when we're talking about youth again, I look at my kids and they're much more likely to want to go out on the RS Cat than the Beetle Cat.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's fast. It's
cool. And it looks cool, right?
It looks cool. Yeah. There's this edgy look to it. And
right.
And it feels a little more dangerous and fast, and it's a little closer to a racing video game, which is what they're used to.
Right.
Right. My salty old soul loves, a double-ended Caledonia yawl by Ian Outred.
Yes.
But I know that if I'm going to do a home build, I want my kids to come along. I'm probably going to need to build something that can.
And you don't need to home build, right? There's so many boats available, plastic boats that you can renovate and just clean up. A lot of times, just to clean up. So.
And that's the other thing, and not to downplay bringing kids in, because I think that's important. I'm not sure that that's the best demographic to go after, if I'm honest. I think your 30-year-old guy, maybe newly married, get him out there, get him on a small boat. He can buy, like Stefan said, you can pick up a Siren or a Wayfarer or something for $2,000. Man, like anybody, almost can afford that. And you can tow it with just about anything. And then hopefully, they have a family, they teach their kids how to sail, then that's great.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with sailing camp. Believe me.
We get people like that too. We get
right. Let's get them out there. But I think you're probably better to get the guys who have young families, etc.
Or women. We get some women too.
Doesn't have a huge amount of money. You're not going to drop. I certainly wouldn't have been dropping $20,000 on a boat, whether I was building it myself or not. I'm a regular working guy kind of thing, right? A couple of grand. Man, one of the best things that happened to sailing and one of the worst things that happened to sailing from a builder's perspective was fiberglass, right? Because they could whip a boat together fast, they could knock them out, they were consistent, etc. But now there are so many of them. Who the hell's going to spend $30,000 on a new, whatever?
Right. Totally.
Potter type of a boat? You're just not. Like the average guy's going to go out and whatever. You get a real nice one for $5,000 with a trailer and a motor and the whole thing, right?
I just wanted to share this with you, Jeff, on the subject of Flow 19 like boats.
That's a beautiful
This is
boat.
one that I think you might be interested in. It's called the Skate 15.
Wow.
It's
Guys, don't show me that stuff.
I know.
it's also a kit boat, just like the Flow 19, but obviously it's 4 feet shorter, so it'll be a little faster build, a little cheaper.
Yeah.
Fits in a garage.
Yeah, but check this boat out. It's got full bowsprit, ASIM, everything you'd expect. The way to think of this, in my opinion, it's a mini Globe 580.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I love those too. I've looked at those. Oh man.
Exactly what I thought when I looked at it.
Yeah.
Home built, scaled down mini 580. And my dream is to build a Portland Pudgy sized version of this. So like an 8 or 10 foot, almost like a toy exhibition boat, right? Where this thing is scaled down. You can still sleep aboard it. But I think this is a great boat. And Brandon is just an amazing designer. Has introduced a lot of innovations that you'll discover when you look
That's
at that.
great. That's great. Yeah. So lastly, where can people find out about your events? Jeff, you want to go ahead?
Sure. So we have a very minimal website right now. It's glexpeditionaryclub.org. And there's a email list to sign up there. And another place that you can find us right now is on Instagram. We have a race specific one, the Rust Belt 950. And we also have a GL Expeditionary Club handle as well.
What about you, Eric? Where can you find more information about your events?
Yep, mine's real easy. EerieExpeditionChallenge.org. And then also we have a Facebook group, and you can just Google for Erie Expedition Challenge and it should come up. And if you go to the website, you can sign up for the mailing list, which is probably the best way to stay informed because Facebook content gets pushed.
Perfect. Thank you. Kelly?
Yeah, so we have our Facebook group where the action happens, and that's just Can-Am Dinghy Cruising Association. And if you put that in, you'll likely also get our website. And the Facebook group is basically where most of the information is. And on the Can-Am Dinghy Cruising Association website, you'll see the different types of events that we hold, et cetera, and the different fleets that we have set up.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, everybody. It's wonderful spending time with you, learning so much about your events. Looking forward to participating in some of those. I'll figure out which one I can go with. So thank you, guys.
Thank
It's been
you
wonderful.
for having us. It was a great
Thank you.
conversation.
See you guys.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Stefan.
Thanks for listening to the Nano Cruising Podcast. I hope today's conversation gave you something useful, inspiring, or fun to carry into your own adventures on the water. If you'd like to stay connected, you can join our mailing list. That's where I send out new episodes, updates, and the occasional bonus resource. We also have a very lively Nano Cruising Facebook group. It's a great place to share ideas, get advice, and meet people who love small boats adventures as much as you do. And for those who want to support the show a little further, we also have a Patreon page. It's completely optional, but it helps cover the behind-the-scenes costs. Thank you. And a shout out to our newest Patreon member, none other than John Harris. Thank you. So all the links you need are in the show notes and on nanocruising.com. Until next time, get out there, explore, and as always, seize your own adventure.
No winches humming, no engine roar, just a little boat and an open shore. Canvas snapping, the kettle's on. World feels big when the boat feels small. We don't need much, just wind and tide, a charter compass and time to ride. Nano cruising, small boats, big seas, long jet big seas, real adventure, no guarantees. If you've dreamed it, if you dare, there's a ramp somewhere out there.